So we continue to get recriminations from the Israelis over the U.S.'s decision to negotiate directly with Hamas. Specifically, it was U.S. President Trump's hostage envoy, Adam Boehler, who negotiated with Hamas and made some very interesting comments in a recent cable news segment. Let's take a listen to those.
Understand why Netanyahu, Dermer, others might be upset.
I do understand. I spoke with Ron, and I'm sympathetic. He has someone that he doesn't know well, making direct contact with Hamas. Maybe I would see them and say, look, they don't have horns growing out of their head. They're actually guys like us. They're pretty nice guys. So he doesn't know me, and there are big stakes. He lives in a country where if it sets certain precedents, then it will hurt or help a lot of other people. So I understand the consternation and the concern, and I wasn't upset. At the same time, we're the United States. We're not an agent of Israel. We have specific interests at play.
So there were two comments there that caught a lot of attention. One, him saying what should be just obvious statement of fact, which is we are the United States and not an agent of Israel. Not sure that also always plays out in practice, as we'll cover in our next segment about what's going on with deportations. But the other one is he said that they're worried, Ron Dermer, who is Bibi's one of his top aides, is worried that he may realize in meeting with Hamas that, quote, they don't have horns growing out of their heads. They're actually pretty nice guys like us. So, this caused a lot of concern. Dermer was upset. Boehler sort of walked back the comments about maybe we'll find out that they're pretty nice guys. We also have some insight that apparently during a security cabinet meeting on Sunday, Dermer said that he was assured the meetings with Hamas did not represent the Trump administration's position. He also told ministers they received assurances from the Trump administration that it, quote, won't happen again, and that Witkoff will be the only channel for the negotiations over the hostages. Also some indications that, certainly they weren't able to strike a direct deal, but, I think in principle you should be negotiating with the parties who are involved in the negotiations. That seems like it makes sense to me. But, Trump administration, after getting a slap on the wrist here from Israel, seems to be pulling back from that a bit. Yeah, exactly. And let's put the Wall Street Journal piece up on the screen, because this is actually kind of amazing. As you said, inside of Israel, he actually went, Adam Boehler, on Israeli television to say his main goal was just the release of the last American hostage. But the Israeli public broadcasters were then basically furious with him because he had told them that they had offered a 5 to 10 year truce under which they would release all of the hostages. And he called it, quote, not a bad first offer, which is where people really started to lose it. Now, it's still unclear how much Boehler speaks for the administration. Donald Trump backed him up yesterday. Secretary of State Marco Rubio kind of has downplayed him a little bit. Let's put C3, guys, can we, up on the screen? He said that the U.S. hostage direct meeting with Hamas was, quote, a one-off. They're affirming that Steve Witkoff is the sole, major representative of the U.S. government in their talks with Hamas. But Boehler still is receiving backup from the administration. One of the reasons why, as I looked into his background, he previously worked on the Abraham Accords, and it does appear as he's got a lot of trust, at least in some of the closer circles. I think he also worked with Jared Kushner. So basically, with all of that together, what we're seeing is there's a split between actual Israeli foreign policy goals and, at least rhetorically, in where the Trump administration is. I did see Zed say and suggest it's possible that one reason Trump is ramping up this deportation of these Palestinian students is specifically because he is behind the scenes pursuing a lot of policy where even the Zionist people will admit this. If Biden had direct talks with Hamas, they would lose it. You would find Tom Cotton and all those people screaming from the rooftops. Here, they're saying nothing because they can't really, right? Yeah. So I do think it's fascinating to watch this all play out. And listen, I'm cheering for this more than anybody else. To have a guy like a United States representative to finally just say we're not an agent of Israel. We have sometimes divergent interests. Just saying that, the Zionists, the Zionist people online were just absolutely furious with him for stating a basic fact
of national interest on behalf of the United States government, or that negotiating with terrorists. It's like, oh my God, again, they're the people who are in control. What are we supposed to do? They're holding our people. Of course we would talk to them. We'd be idiots not to, unless you don't care about the hostages. Oh, okay, all right, it's very interesting, isn't it? So there's a lot going on behind the scenes, a lot of, what are you thinking?
I mean, I don't know. There's also a lot of vibes here too of sort of like the Biden administration. Oh, Netanyahu's really upset with us. Leaked conversations. Oh, they're really upset with us this time. Like Biden's really pushing Bibi and he's really standing up for American interests. So it does have a little bit of those vibes. Redux for me as well. Rubio ultimately said, the full quote was, "That was a one-off situation in which our special envoy for hostages, whose job it is to get people released, had an opportunity to talk directly to someone who has control over these people and was given permission and courage to do so. He did so." So, again, emphasize, it's a one-off. It didn't bear fruit. We won't do it again. It's just going to be Witkoff who you deal with going forward, et cetera. I don't know. It feels like they're more or less walking back this approach that they were taking. And the reason it made the Israelis so nervous, and Smotrich actually made some comments to this effect, he said, Bowler sought to conduct negotiations to free American hostages on his own accord and called it an utter mistake. The issue there is they're concerned that Trump and Bowler and Witkoff and whoever are just going to go be like, okay, we'll make a deal with you for our American hostages and then good luck with y'all with the rest of this whole thing. Do I think that's likely what happens? No, but that's their concern. And the other thing is that Bibi has positioned himself like, oh, my first paramount concern is the return of the hostages. That has obviously never been the case. But if the Trump administration actually followed through with a policy where the primary goal actually was the return of the hostages, well, that would move us forward significantly in terms of, continuing to phase 2 of this agreement, trying to actually wrap down this war, et cetera. Because right now, Bibi is, doing exactly what he promised to do, not moving forward with negotiations and threatening to restart the war. We also know, the other piece to add into this is that the Trump administration is backing the new siege on Gaza, where humanitarian aid is being blocked and now electricity is being cut off, which is incredibly significant, not just for, electricity being important in general and hospitals needing electricity, et cetera, but you also need electricity to be able to, purify water, and it would cut off some 70% of access to water in the Gaza Strip. So the Trump administration is backing them in that particular policy, which is obviously collective punishment, a war crime, and abhorrent, and counter to the direction of wanting to resolve this issue and move forward. So I don't know. I continue to be not terribly hopeful.
Yeah, I'm not hopeful in the sense of my ideal. I am somewhat hopeful for having an envoy who says we're not your client state. And while, yes, they may support this, if they were able to get some sort of 5 to 10 year truce, which clearly the Israelis are freaking out about because they're wondering if that's even a remote possibility. We went from basically 0 chance, I think, under Biden to, 15%? That's high enough.
Yeah.
Phase 2 right now is still up in the air. I wouldn't bet on it per se, but Witkoff is still dedicated to it. Trump has not yet mentioned we're going to take over Gaza in the last 10, 15 days or so. I'm hopeful of that. He didn't say anything in the State of the Union, all right? Ever since that stupid video of bearded women and woke, Gaza gone woke, haven't heard anything from the guy. So maybe, there's something there. Right now, actually, Secretary of Rubio is in Saudi Arabia meeting with the Ukrainians, but importantly, the readout from his meeting with MBS was that they discussed the reconstruction of Gaza. Don't forget that the dream of the Trump administration is a Saudi-Israeli normalization deal, of which the Saudis say they will not sign unless there is a free Gaza, or at least a different Gaza under either the Palestinian Authority or some sort of separate political entity. So they have a lot of different, things that are pressing against them, from the UAE emir, who is also very close with the Trump administration. And the Saudis, of course, have a ton of money that they very easily can deploy, not only in our politics, but they can affect the Ukraine situation as well. Part of the reason that these talks are happening in Riyadh literally as we speak.
Yeah.
So I'm not discounting all that just yet.
Just to go back to Bowler's comments about they're worried that we're going to realize they're good guys, they don't have horns coming out of their heads or whatever. I actually think that comment is really revealing. And I think it does speak exactly to why there is such a prohibition on, they were very upset when Witkoff went to Gaza, obviously very upset about the direct talks with Hamas because, Netanyahu has built his political career on making Hamas the ultimate boogeyman that you can never talk to, you can never negotiate as long as they're there. There's no partner for peace. They're just like the epitome of absolute evil. And I don't know, I'm not here to whitewash or sanitize Hamas and what they're all about and the things that they've done or whatever. But when you're actually sitting face to face with members of that group and you're talking to them and they're explaining their reasoning and they're staking out positions and negotiating with you like they are human beings, because they are, it makes it much more difficult to maintain that caricature and have it stick. And it's such an important part both of Bibi's power and of overall Hasbara propaganda campaigns that I think that really does speak to why there's such a freak out at the mere idea of any American representative meeting face-to-face with Hamas.
Yeah, so we'll see. I'm definitely enjoying some of the freak out that's going on over there. And if Trump wants to go more in this direction, be my guest. The problem, as you know, is that there is a major political force here in this town where even the mere suggestion of this, the light up, the phone, Marco Rubio, can you imagine, all of the people who are calling, people like Miriam Adelson and others and their pressure points over there. So there is a massive pressure campaign in Washington, outside of Washington, trying to basically derail any of this. Their dream is basically just blank check to Israel and basically an abandonment of a lot of this hostage negotiation period, right?
Yeah.
And so for them, watching them go from their wildest dream of America's gonna take over Gaza to, no, we're talking about Hamas in a 5-10-year truce, it must be dizzying, and they're trying everything they possibly can to push back against it. We'll see. Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.